Hello everybody, it's KingGodwise here. I am going to do lesson number 8, Always a Perfect Storm. This is one of the more complicated lessons because I haven't mastered it, no one has, but it's very difficult to master. Basically it's this: everything in your life that's happened to you has not been from one cause. Nobody gets blindsided and says, oh, this one thing did me in. This one thing caused me to get the job. This one thing caused me to lose the job. This one thing caused me to marry this girl. This one thing caused me to have this baby. Everything in your life that's important is a series of perfect storms. If you look at the odds of any one of them happening, it took 1,000,000 to 1 shot, another 1,000,000 to 1 shot, another 1,000,000 to 1 shot, another 1,000,000 to 1 shot, and they all stacked up in a line for this to happen. Whether it was you marrying the person you did, whoever your partner is, you meeting them, you having the baby you did, the particular month you did, the particular whatever, your job, your career, which college you chose. Now there are people that, even if they think, oh, I've known I wanted to go to Notre Dame my whole life. Well, no, your father liked Notre Dame, or something happened to even cause that. So everything in your life is a series of perfect storms. There's no one cause. And it's interesting. So you have everything in your life is a setup. It's been set up for several factors. In boxing we teach, no one punch doesn't knock anybody out. You have to have a combination. You throw a punch which causes something to happen, which you throw another punch and then something happens. Even if the knockout punch is a powerful punch, and it's rare to have a one punch knockout, you have to have that combination setup. Even then it could be a thing of footwork. I've seen wrestlers do a throw and the guy actually I have a good friend, and he threw, and the throw was so easy that he tried a more advanced throw, and he pulled a muscle and hurt himself. If he'd actually been less dominant in that match, he would have won it. So those examples of everything is a perfect storm. Now, the one thing I kind of hesitate to even do this lesson about is I don't quite know how to manipulate this yet for benefit, because I think the only thing is kind of being aware of that. No one loses a job because they had one thing that happened. It might have been one thing, like the boss came in a bad mood, or you slipped in a puddle and your shirt looks like crap at a meeting, or you had a cold at something. So there's always something, but before that there was something set up to cause that problem. Same thing with getting a job. You may have met the person. Hollywood is full of. There was an actor and he jumped in a cab, and he shared a cab with somebody who happened to be a director who looked at him that day, and a star was born. But even then, all of that setup. So those type of things are hard to manipulate, but there's an idea of trying to stack the deck in your favor. Being aware of this, and I've looked at this. Life is always a series of perfect storms, and the one thing about it, and I'm trying to manipulate this properly, is it's easy to stop bad things from happening to you then, because all you have to do is break one of those sequences of events. I see this even kind of like in primitive societies who are more result-oriented. They put the women in veils. They put the women they cover them up. They don't let them go ride in a car with a man. They don't do that. And I always say, well, that's kind of silly. That's ridiculous. That's primitive thinking. But I have a friend, and she had an affair, and she was a lonely, unhappy housewife, and she happened to be on a conference and met this kind of predatory guy, and then they happened to be paired up in this conference to go do some whatever, and then they walked down this dark path, and then they got each other's number, and then it was a 1,000,000 to 1, 1,000,000 to 1, 1,000 to 1, 1,000 to 1, and then boom, she ended up in an affair, and she's a pretty good person and never had one before or since, but it never would have happened without all of this crazy perfect storms. These are little things that you kind of can see where things are going, and that's just one example. You look at, but it's on a worldwide scale. You look at World War I. The events that led up to World War I if someone wrote a script and submitted that, it would be rejected as implausible. There's just no way that could have happened. But it did, and all those countries are fighting each other for basically nothing. And then you had World War II, which came from World War I, and all the things that happened in World War II that were just million to one shots. You know why? The Japanese attack. If Japanese hadn't attacked Pearl Harbor, America probably wouldn't have gotten into World War II. If the Germans had just let the Russians come through Poland, maybe France and England and Germany would have fought Russia. There's a million of events that are they're perfect storms, and they could be on your personal life or on a worldwide scale. And the point of this is kind of what I said before: to be forewarned is forearmed, because almost nobody is blindsided by one event. It's not one thing out of the blue. It's not a bolt out of the blue that gets you. You're in a position where there's a little danger. You might be... Sorry about that. There's a little danger where something's happening. You have an unhappy wife, or you have a unhappy employee, or you have something, and then things are happening. You know, somebody could try to start a business, and they have an idea, and they go and they invest their money and they do this business. But then there's a fad that comes suddenly that maybe takes away from their business, and then the stock market, which they have no control over, kind of collapses, and people don't have as much spending money, and then maybe interest rates go up, so their business loan is 1 point higher than they expected. That is a perfect storm. And I think the way we can try to see that is you kind of look at all the things that are happening and what could go wrong and what might go wrong. And if A happens, then B, then C, then D. And if you can be smart enough and aware enough, situational awareness, and this could be on a totally new level of situational awareness, but I think it's where Nietzsche once said, I've gone past the point where luck can befall me. And I wonder if that's where his idea of the Übermenschen, where you had reached the point where you weren't just for dumb luck, but you could actually manipulate the circumstances. Maybe you can't manipulate the circumstances, but you can at least be so far aware of them that you don't get trapped by them. So somebody starting a business, having all these things, he could look at, the stock market's headed down. Now maybe it'll pop up or something, but you might not know that. So those are all kind of examples. It's also an example of another lesson I will eventually put out. It's called Stack the Deck in Your Favor. And that's an idea that whatever the odds are, you just keep stacking the deck. A salesman keeps making extra calls. A kid does a little extra homework. A wrestler practices that move a few extra times. Maybe the weird move that he doesn't think he needs, but then it shows up in a tournament. The old idea that luck is when preparation meets opportunity. Maybe the things so when you're extra prepared and you're extra aware of what's going on. So anyway, sorry, this lesson doesn't seem as concise and wrapped up as the others, but I think it's much more complex and difficult than a lot of them. It's basically everything in your life that's happened to you is a perfect storm. And if you're aware of what's going on and can kind of see the sequence of events that will lead to you being successful, or the sequence of events that'll lead you to being your downfall. And if they're leading to your downfall, break them. Break that chain. The chain is fragile. You can break it. And if you see what has to happen for you to be successful, make sure you keep that chain repaired, and you might be able to get some phenomenal results. I've never heard anyone speak of this before, and I'm kind of chewing it up. I've been digesting it for a few years, and I still haven't got it quite mastered at all, but it's something to be aware of. I've seen it happen before. So anyway, hope this helps somebody out there. Thank you very much.